but I also understand that I have to cap it. There's no way that I can get to all of you in an hour and a half.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to just, follow me, but I'm going to go into certain things because I definitely want to touch on your time with Will, right? I definitely want to touch on your rap career. We live? We're live. What's up? I know we late. I know we late. Don't worry about that. We here. Better late than never. I want y'all to pay attention to the newly renovated stage. Do you see the new chairs? Right? Shout to Malik. Malik painted the stage for us.
Yeah, that's fire.
You know what I'm saying? I came through with the walker wear. Shout to April for these shorts. These are like ball shorts, Kel, right? But they're like so comfortable, man. Yeah. I wear them like around the crib. I just figured I'd just come out with them today, man. They go well with the pandas. Kai, you back? What happened? Oh, the shirt. Oh, yes, the shirt. You ain't got to whisper that. They know how we get down. The shirt. Shout out to Cool DJ Red Alert.
Nice.
This shirt, man, is DJ Red Alert. Yeah, this is his product, man. You know what I'm saying? We selling it on HipHopCloset. Do remember, July 15th, we doing probably the biggest block party of the year. It's going to happen here at Building 77 in the parking lot. I'm going to tell y'all something right now. We already have like 3,000 RSVPs. It's going to be lit. You need to RSVP right now. Go to HipHopCloset on IG. Find out where Kaisha put the link. RSVP. You don't want to get sold out of this. It's going to be an amazing event. And it's free. It's free. You don't got to spend no money on it. It's free 99. Kai, what's up? You wasn't with us last week.
I wasn't here last week.
How you feeling? Good?
I feel good.
Jason's here. Jay was here last week.
I missed y'all.
I missed you too, but you was on the comments though.
I was in the comments. But I felt like it was a delay, and I was like trying to talk to people. It was hard.
It was difficult.
Yeah, I like being here with y'all, so I could just like talk right.
Nah, that's lit. Jay was holding it down though. Shout to Jason.
Thank you, all of y'all.
Mr. Nonchalant. Yeah, we did our thing. Malik was doing construction while we was. Yo, you should have saw Jay's face, yo. Malik started like. Does he have a saw back there? I don't know what the fuck he was doing. I know what he was doing. All right, let's sit it in. This brother right here, I love this brother. It's one of those things like when you go to a school and you make your mark in the school, and then you leave a school and you hear someone else is making a mark at the school, right? And the name always kind of comes up. And it's sort of one of those things where you just have a level of respect for that person because you remember how you was in the space and you hear how they are in the space. And it kind of gives you that feeling that, there's this like continuum, right?
Okay.
Morgan State is a wild school. It was amazing to be at Morgan State in the 90s.
It was.
I came in 92.
It was.
I was like a comet. I was hot. I was fast, and I crashed.
Woo! You weren't alone. You weren't alone.
You know what I'm saying? So this brother's name used to always come up. Shout out to Kashana and like all the people from Morgan that really introduced me to Kel before I knew Kel. And they would all be like, "Yeah, you know Kel. Y'all was on the same shit. You know Kel." And I didn't know Kel. And then I met Kel, and it's been love since then.
Absolutely.
Like I just told his brother when he sat down, there's no way we could do this in an hour and a half. That's the type of brother he is. He's well respected in every avenue that he walks. He's done it all in a real way. He's educated. He's entertained. He's given wisdom. He's given support. People love him and respect him because of his work. And, I'm just happy to say I know Kel Spencer. And after this interview, you're also going to be happy to say that you know Kel Spencer. So I introduce to some and present to others my brother Kel Spencer.
Yo.
It was good.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, we need to clap. We need to clap.
Damn, that was humbling, man.
Let me set the stage. We have been doing this. This is episode 19. We've been doing this since the beginning of the year, Kel.
January.
Since January, right? We've been doing this as a homage to Hip Hop 50.
Gotcha.
Kai and I was discussing, well, listen, what can we do to big up Hip Hop 50 in our own way?
Okay.
And we came up with this idea of just having conversations with people who have impacted the culture.
Gotcha.
Right? So we go to our Rolodex and we find everybody that's, on that level, and we invite them in, right? And we've done great. We've had Ralph McDaniels, April Walker, Renee Nouveau from Jeanne. We've had Classic Material, Carlos, my man. We've had Sneaker Joe, Al Scratch. We've had an amalgamation of talent on all ends. Sonia Megan, stylist,
that's my homie,
right? Fade from Shirt King, right? You fit in that mold to me.
Okay.
You've done your thing in the game. You've had impact in the culture in numerous ways. Do you feel that way? Like, do you get up in the morning and be like, yeah, that's me?
It's funny, when I just sit and listen to the intro you just gave me, just, certain boxes that got checked up. These are not things I don't really think about them every day. And it's probably because there's so much more I want to do. Right. I'm a little more focused on that. Right. Every now and again you do kind of sit back and hear people say things similar to what you just said. And it's like, all right, maybe I did do a couple things. All right, cool. But I mean, there's so much more that I want to do. I mean, it's humbling to be in the company of some of the names that you just mentioned. It's humbling to see your name in certain places and in certain credits and so on and so forth. But, there's just so much more I want to do, man.
And it's getting done. It's getting done. You know what I'm saying? I look at you, you're one of the few people that I look at them for motivation. There's people that I look at for contemporary support, right? Like, you doing your thing, I'm doing my thing. Let's work together. Let's connect when we can connect. But then there's a select few, yourself, April Walker, House of Swag. There's a few of them. G-Bo the Pro that I look at for motivation. G-Bo the Pro, who's my man, he sat in his chair a few weeks back. He is the president of the Keith Haring Foundation. He just was in LA. They have an amazing exhibit about Keith Haring. That he went out to LA, suited and booted. The entire world loves Haring. Right. And he's able to be an arbiter for Keith Haring. That's fine. And so that's motivation. Yeah. And likewise with you, and really for me and you, it comes more like we're both very busy. We deal in busyness. Right? But you have a way of focusing in and front-facing your wife and your two sons. And, that's always been a connective point for you and I. I want to start at the beginning, though, because the other thing is, mad people love your pops out here.
Oh, that's my dad.
I had somebody, I can't think of who it was, but they was like, yeah, nah, you got Kel Spencer. No, his father used to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yo, wait a minute, you my age. You know his pops? Nah, Mr. Bennett is cool. He get love. Where'd y'all grow up? Where'd you grow up?
Brownsville.
Where in Brownsville?
Brownsville, Amboy, between Riverdale and Newport.
Oh, y'all was right over there.
Yeah.
I know over there.
I moved to East New York when I was 11. But Brownsville, my pops grew up in Crown Heights. He played ball. He went to Brooklyn College, went away to the service. When he came back, he got a teaching job at Boys and Girls High School.
That's what it was. It was
under
from
Frank Mickens.
Right.
So he was actually his head dean during that Fulton Ave regime, so to speak. So my pops was teaching. I don't know if y'all had Keith on this show, Keith White.
Keith White. No, not yet. But that'll happen.
So my pops actually not gave Keith, but helped Keith with his first teaching job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, my pops, he was a dean. So from him playing ball, he used to ref at Soul in the Hole and Westfall.
So that explains it. Yeah. That's why the streets know. They know who he is.
Yeah. So he was reffing, he was umpiring, he came up playing ball, and then he was in the trenches of, a pivotal and buzzworthy high school at that time, teaching and being the dean. So, I remember growing up as a kid, wherever we went, like, Dad, everywhere we go, now my son's saying the same thing to me. Exactly. But yeah, man, I mean, that's, and it's all positive. Like, clearly your name could ring bells for, a plethora of different reasons, but it's all positive. Everywhere we go, I have people pull me to the side since I was a kid, even till now. Yo, your pops, not very many people know this, but he helped me with this. When I was going through this, he was there for me with this. Your pops. So a lot of that, has a lot to do with how I live my life. you know, just to have those things said about you, to be there for people,
That's
you
real
know,
talk.
not
That's
gonna be
real
perfect,
talk. Yeah.
but you know, just, and I think specifically with the pandemic over the last couple of years, it kind, a lot of people are like, yo, I don't see you out as much. You know, I kind of really just been focusing more on awareness, you know, self-awareness, you know, my relationship between other people, you know, the needs of other people, you know, it just, you know, this last couple of years really just shifted my perspective on a lot. Still busy, but you know, really just thinking about others and how to be there for others now and down the line.
Right. It's called taking the pitch. Like when you up to bat, you don't swing at everything. Sometimes you take a few pitches to see what the pitch is giving.
Absolutely.
I know you're two brothers. Do you have any other siblings besides them?
Nah, just
three of y'all. How was that growing up in the crib?
It was dope. I mean, we all 2 years apart.
Yo, how? And I want to stay in that space, but I just want to ask you, how's it with your two boys? How's it growing? How are they growing up together?
Pretty dope.
Like,
man.
do they be wilding out?
Yeah.
Like my son and my daughter, they take karate together. Shout out to Mr. Sabu.
They on the way here, my wife called me like, "Yo, they want to talk to you." Landon, my 4-year-old.
Right.
Daddy, I got a new belt today.
Right.
Yeah, they both take karate together.
But they be fighting each other in the crib. They be practicing kicks. I'm like, yo, I come in the room like, y'all gotta chill. You can't practice kicks on each other. Like that's how they are.
I think they're a little too young for that. I mean, they do wrestle and all of that.
Same age,
7 and 4.
How old is Leah? 7.
7, yeah.
7. Mine's is 7 and 5.
Really? Okay.
Because I remember we had out Michaela and Leah.
Absolutely. Right. I forgot
Right.
about that. You're right.
So how was it with you growing up with your two brothers?
I mean, it was all. I mean, we was always into sports. We was into music.
Right.
They were a little more into video games than I was. But I mean, you have your little sibling rivalry, your little fights. But for the most part, you know, we got along. You know, we always lived on a block with a bunch of other kids, and I think that helped a lot too. You know, you don't see the kids going out playing football and tag and all that as much now, but back then a lot of that really helped. And our crib, we were kind of like the Huxtables on our block, so to speak. You know, both of the parents were professionals. They were welcoming to the other kids on the block. My pops would make pancakes and go to the door and yell, "Come and get it!" All of the kids come in and block, you know. So like, I think growing up with, you know, with the three of us in the context of everybody else, that definitely helped. And, you know, there was a different age back then. You know, somebody else's parents could slap you in the back of the head and it was all good. You know, so I think growing up with that, with, you know, with us being, I guess, the nucleus, so to speak, of that, you know, it definitely helped with accountability. You know, you do something wrong, it ain't just us. The rest of the block gonna find out too. Oh, you was wilding out, you bugging, you know. So I think a lot of that kind of just helped us just kind of, for the most part, stay on the straight and narrow.
That's the paradigm of how we were raised in the 70s and 80s. That what you're explaining is the same thing that I went through growing up. This accountability marker that existed far beyond your home.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I could be cursing on the B44 bus and then I get home and get my ass whipped because somebody called my mother and said, "Yo, your son was on the bus cursing." So accountability was way deeper than just in your home. Right?
Absolutely.
Who was the best athlete out of the three of y'all?
Probably my youngest brother, Flo. Probably.
You played for
He was definitely the best football player.
Right.
Yeah.
You played for Canarsie.
I played for Canarsie.
He played for Canarsie under you?
Nah, he went to Poly Prep.
Oh, he was at Poly Prep.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you play with the Schulters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Matter of fact, I just saw Dwayne.
High school?
95.
95.
Yeah.
Right. So you was with Dwayne.
I played with Dwayne and Lance.
Lance was older. Lance was like my year.
No, Dwayne was older.
Dwayne was my year.
Yeah.
Lance was younger.
Yeah.
Right.
So I played No. Dwayne, I didn't play with Dwayne. Because I played for the Skyhawks.
You played for the Skyhawks?
I played for the Skyhawks up into my sophomore year of high school. So I never played JV.
Right.
So I was a sophomore in high school still playing for the Skyhawks.
Right.
Dwayne was the man on the team then.
Right.
And then my junior year, Lance was on our team.
Right. So I always say about how fast hip hop moved in that span from like 88 to like 96. Like if you look at that time frame, we went from Kane was hot in 88, and by 90, when he rocked that purple suit, he was done. Because the culture was moving so fucking fast, right? So even within our 3 years, when I graduated in 92, Party and Bullshit had just dropped. In fact, it didn't even drop when I was in high school. It didn't drop until freshman year of Morgan. Woo came out freshman year of Morgan. But by the time you graduate high school in 95, you got Ready to Die.
Yep.
You got does Reasonable Doubt?
Reasonable Doubt was 96.
96.
Yep.
Right. But you definitely got It Was Written.
Yep.
You got Illmatic and It Was Written. Right? You got you didn't get the score yet. That was the score. What was the score?
Score
like
came 96.
out after
96,
right.
maybe 97, but somewhere around there.
Tell me about your interaction with hip hop in your high school.
It's funny you say that. So I was responsible for putting the song together that we as the football team were going to come out to each game.
Now, how did you get that responsibility?
Just in the locker room, what you listening to.
Right.
There was 2 days a week that I was one of the first players in the locker room just because of my schedule. Mm-hmm. So I would get in the locker room. We had a radio in there. I'd play something. So as people were coming in, I might throw something new, something everybody familiar with.
Right.
So, yo, what you gonna play tomorrow?
Right.
What you gonna play tomorrow? What you gonna play when we come out this weekend?
Right.
So eventually that, and the funny thing is, that has something to do with work to this very day, which we'll get into at some point in time.
Indeed.
But yeah, so I kind of would create the soundtrack, so to speak, of what we were coming out to. So I had to get up and have the tapes ready for Bobito and Stretch and even Sway and, just really just hone in on, what's new, what's this. I used to even VHS tape the videos, BET, Rap City. So I used to have like my own video mixtape. Right. That was for when the girls came on.
Right.
But whatever. Right. But just staying abreast of what was going on. We used to go to camp, Clearpool Camp, upstate New York. It was like maybe 3 years in a row when I was like maybe 11, 12, and 13. So I ended up getting friends that lived upstate, that lived in Jersey. So I would call them and listen to what they were, or ask what they were listening to. And that young, Jersey was like a world away.
Right. They were like, a step outside of us.
Right. So just finding out what they were listening to. And then, of course, early 90s is when West Coast started to leak over into East Coast radio. And, you hear in the Far Side and Delta Funky Homo Sapien and so on and so forth. So now you kind of just getting a hint of what the West Coast is listening to. So I think me kind of having that responsibility to make the stadium, so to speak, rock right. on that Saturday morning.
That's big, bro.
I had to really know what was going on.
That's big. And you're right. That's the kind of shit we do now. That's the kind of curating that we do at this moment, but you were doing it at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, man.
The mixtapes were heavy back then too. Clue, Doo-Wop,
SNS.
Right. Ron G.
Was Kid Capri doing?
Kid Capri, Capri. Grandmaster Vic, out in Queens with the blend tapes. So that was a big time. Yeah. You came to Morgan in 95. I left in June of 95.
Oh, okay.
My daughter was a Morgan baby, is a Morgan baby, and she was born July of 95. So I was off that campus.
Right.
That summer. Now, I did come down. I feel like I performed at Morgan Day 96. We opened up for Boot Camp Click, and I came back down. But I was pretty much out in 95.
I remember that Boot Camp Click show. Yeah. I remember Homecoming 96 too.
Yeah, Homecoming
the 96.
Show. Right, the show. Yeah. I came back for that as well. Yeah. Tell me about Morgan.
Ah, man. Morgan, man. The funny thing is, I was actually about to go to St. John's.
Really?
Yeah. They was giving up the most money.
Right.
And then I had a coach from Morgan at the time reach out like, look, I can't guarantee you a scholarship the first year, but with what we're doing offensively, came across your tape, think you might be a good fit, blah, blah, blah. Came down, took the visit, fell in love with it, went to Morgan.
What was it that you fell in love with?
Just the vibe, just the atmosphere. It felt like a bigger version of the block.
It did.
It felt like a bigger version of the block. And when I look at all of the other schools that I visited, I'm not going to throw nobody under the bus. It felt like a campus, like I guess what you might see on TV.
Right.
But Morgan felt like a different world.
Right.
And that was one of my favorite shows at the time.
But there was a juxtaposition to Morgan. And the thing about it is because of the issues that the Qs and Sigmas had prior to my coming in, when I got to Morgan in fall of 92, like in most HBCUs, the climate of the campus is dictated by whatever fraternity runs the
Absolutely.
campus.
Not Morgan, though.
Not Morgan. Morgan, the climate was dictated by New York.
Absolutely.
TTC.
Hands down.
Fam.
Yep.
Right? Stick and Move, Marcus and them. Like these was real, like up top, they were respected people. So Morgan was dictated in a different schematic, and that's why it felt comfortable. It felt comfortable because it was an extension of the block that we was familiar with.
I agree. Because I even remember, I might have been about 13, I went on a college tour trip during my spring break that year. We went to maybe 15 college tours. 5 bus loads, hotels. I don't know what my parents paid for this trip.
Right.
And every campus we went on, they try to, I guess, lure you in with having the frat do a step show, blah, blah, blah. And we went to Morgan on that trip, and there was no frats. And the thing is, it didn't really click until years later when I went to Morgan, like, yo, this is different. I like it though.
Shout to Joe Claire and the Kappas. Shout to the Qs, because the Qs were very dynamic on Morgan's campus. But it just so happens is when I dropped in, they had that suspension for whatever happened with them and Sigmas. So when the moment I dropped in, they really didn't have it.
Right.
But then they always had that. What was that? What's the party they always do around I Love Morgan Day? The Qs.
I know they got the Jungle Juice. I can't remember the name of the party though.
Shit, but you know the party. Y'all know the party, right? So you go to Morgan. Let me ask you something. When did you? This is what I wanted to ask you. I want to ask you when you started writing rhymes, and then when you started reciting rhymes publicly. Because I know for me, there's a lapse in that. Like, there was a time when I was writing, but it was a bit longer before I started actually spitting. So when did you start writing, and then when did you start spitting?
So I started writing when I was like 12. And what inspired me was my brother right under me, Marley. He's 2 years younger than me. He had to write a rhyme for a school project.
Right.
So he came home on the weekend, he writing his rhyme. And I was like making fun of him, like, you write him. All right, go ahead. Let me hear it when you're done.
Right.
So when he spit it for me, I was like, yo, that's all right. And then he kind of got into a habit and a flow of it. And then eventually I said, yo, let me try that.
Right.
So like you know, I would write something, kind of put it to myself, maybe say it for just them two, but outside of the crib, I wasn't, nobody knew, but I was writing and writing and writing. And then eventually, I want to say maybe 2 years later, we did a talent show at my school. I went to, at the time it was 275 on Linden and Rockaway. Now it's called Kappa 5. We did a talent show there. Won the talent show. And at that point in time, I'm like, all right, I might have something. Now, it wasn't like the audience could really hear what we were saying. I think it was more of just the showmanship.
Right. And probably you were popular, so like, was a popular kid, so that transfers. Right. It's very easy in that dynamic to see that out. Yeah.
Right. So then after a while, I'm like, yo, matter of fact, I got a wild story to tell you. My mom's came home. No. My mom's went. My mom's had a friend whose kids were dancers or whatever. She went to their talent show. She came home. She was like, yo, there's this thing called the All Stars Talent Show Network. Y'all got to sign up for this. If y'all want to really see what this rapping thing is about. I went to the talent show. There were kids from all over dancing, rapping, singing. They even had a kid comedian. Right. This little girl, she was about 8 years old. She won the whole thing. People were throwing money on the stage for her. This little girl had a beautiful voice, blah, 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 blah. And she came home with the flyer for maybe the next round of auditions that was coming maybe 3 months later.
Right.
Cool. So we go out for the auditions. We end up making it in, not knowing later that everybody who auditions makes it in, or whatever. But we ended up winning what they called the national finals that season. You had to, escalate through like maybe a series of 5 shows. So as a group, we won the national finals that year. We went back the second year, made it to the national finals and lost. But we started taking it serious. And at that time, I might have been about 14, we had the family that moved into the apartment that we moved out of when we moved to the East. They had actual, the father of that family had a studio. His name was Sarge. So we were still cool with them. We started going over there, just recording demos. And at that point in time, I was a little more outward, with, I felt, I guess, a lot more confident. So at that point in time, I would enter the ciphers in the lunchroom and, do a little bit more than just the talent shows.
Right.
But yeah, there was a lapse for me too.
Right.
I know a few people, they first rhyme, the next morning they in the cafeteria. That wasn't.
It wasn't me. In fact, I may have violated code because the first time I ever kicked a rap publicly, it was a Young MC verse.
Oh.
And I did that shit strategically. Young MC used to have a song that I liked. And the song, and y'all look this up. Young MC had a song where he talked about Greg Louganis.
Okay.
Somewhere in one of his bars was about Greg Louganis. Okay. Whatever he said about Greg Louganis, I was like, oh, that shit is hot. Now, at the time, I was a student of the game. Like, I would listen to everything. I would go to Beach Street. Shout out to Goldie. DJ Goldfinger was. I would go to Beach Street and I would just buy everything. Right? Spice 187, MC8. Like you said, West Coast was blossoming in the 90s.
Right.
So I had this Young MC album, and I really liked the album, but nobody in my hood had ever heard of Young MC, and I knew that they didn't hear about it. So I wanted to rhyme. I wanted to get outside, but I wasn't confident about what I was writing. So I memorized this Young MC line, bar with the Grey Goo Gaynor shit. I memorized that verse. And I went outside with it. And I'm standing there and I can't wait to spit niggas like, and then I do the Young MC shit and nobody knows that it's Young MC. They all like, nah, this nigga's nice. Like, hold on a minute. But then that put me in a space, but now I gotta like.
Yeah, that's the standard now.
Now you gotta come back. But I say that to say people that, there was always that arc for people who are lyricists back then, because being a lyricist was very much difficult. It's much more difficult then than now. You couldn't even use the same words that somebody used. You can't even you had to really be original. So you go to Morgan and by then you're rhyming, you're a rapper, so to speak. Tell me about that experience at Morgan.
What I remember, we brought up the show for homecoming. It might have been after one of those shows. Everybody out on the yard, and there was a cipher going on. And no. Let me backtrack. I remember there was a cipher during freshman orientation,
right?
And I didn't get in it. I just sat and watched, and I heard everybody, and I was like, "This is what you." All right. And I remember going home for the rest of the summer and just waiting. I know an opportunity is gonna come. I don't know when. I don't know how, but all right, cool. And sure enough, that was October. Homecoming after the show, there was a cipher, and I can't remember the kid's name, but he was from Brooklyn. He was actually from East New York. He started it off, and he was okay. But then a couple of other people jumped in, and it was decent, and I was like, all right. Jumped in, bodied it.
Right.
And that was kind of the beginning of what came next. Was a group called the Black Diamonds.
Right.
It was about 15 of us.
Right.
But, from that cipher and watching other people, let me get your number. Where you stay? What doing? That kind of like really got the ball rolling within the context of Morgan.
Right. And I heard about the Black Diamonds.
Yeah.
That's part of the lore. Like when people were telling me about you, they were like, nah, like they got a crew down
there. Yeah. I remember it might have been about a month after that show in McKeldin, they would have like teen club night or whatever. And somebody was supposed to show up and didn't show up. And one of my boys was cool with whoever was DJing.
Right.
So he went up and got on the mic like, yo, you're having a good time. The crowd going crazy, whatever. Right. And he started rhyming. And when he started rhyming, we all was like, is this our cue? Like, so before long, all 12 of us was on stage. Killed that. I wish there was cameras. I wish the cameras were as prevalent back then.
Film of in McKeldin doing the same shit. Shout out to Sean Parker and Florida. We got film of us doing the same exact shit.
I wish.
When's the first time you got paid for rap?
First time I got paid.
First check or the cash that somebody gave you from rap.
The first time I got paid. Woo. There was a show called 5 Minutes of Funk. I forget his name, but you had Heavy D and you had the boys. I forget the boy, the lead boy.
Not Eddie F, not Trouble T-Boy, the other dude. Brown skin dude.
Yes.
I know you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
But he hosted this show in Baltimore. So you get 5 minutes, come up, do your thing. He had Groovy Lou was one of the judges. And he had another industry head as the judges. Oh, I know the whole story clear now. So you get up, you get 5 minutes to do your thing. First place gets $1,000 and a meeting with them. Right. Second place gets $500. Right. We go up, we kill it. There's maybe 3 other acts after us. One of those 3 acts was a duo, an R&B group. They went up there and bodied it. Ended up being Rough Ends. They bodied it. I ain't gonna front. So they took the $1,000. They got the meeting. Right. We got the 500. Right. But Groovy Lou pulled us to the side afterwards, like, yo. I mean, that's R&B. They could sing. That's probably why they had the edge. But y'all got something. Y'all need to keep. And at that point in time, the 12 of us had dwindled down to like 5. Right. So we split the 500 up. a buck a piece. So I would say that might be the first time I got some money off of music.
How do you go from that to like getting in the game? Tell me how that stretch looked like for you.
So the next step was my man Sonny Bricks. He stayed across the dome from me in OC. So O'Connell Hall, that's one of the domes. That's the freshman.
152.
I was in 219.
Yeah,
yeah.
We used to call this ghetto bastard. Ghetto bastard.
So that was the all male freshman dome.
Right.
If the rest of the campus looked like Beverly Hills,
I should have liked Brownsville.
Oh man. But it was essential for a lot of different things. But I heard him banging on beat pads across the hall. So I knocked on his door like, yo, you got a drum machine in here? He was like, yeah, I got this, I got that. I'm like, all right, cool. A few of us be putting some things together. So we would start recording in his room. And at the time back home, I was doing an independent deal with an independent single deal. The three of us, my brothers and I, aside from what we were doing with Black Diamonds, we created a 3-man group called Blue Flame. So we were about to release a single called Live 99. This is about 98 at the time. We were going to do a single called Live 99, and I also had a B-side called Club Visions. And Club Visions was a symbolic, metaphoric rhyme about being on the line outside of this club trying to get in the industry. And the bouncers are the A&Rs. And there's all of these figureheads not wanting me to get in this club or making it difficult for me to get in this club. When I get in this club, it's a wrap. But for the time being, I'm having visions of getting in this club. That song started to get play on like college radio, specifically NYU. And I still to this day don't know how they got a hold of it and don't really remember the DJ's name. But that started to get a little buzz. And the label that I was about to do the indie deal with, at the time, my man Gordon was Gangstar's road manager. So I ended up getting Premier and Source Money, who was doing a nice amount of ghostwriting at the time. I got like a quasi mentorship under them.
The Source.
Yeah.
So Source was crazy back then. Niggas don't respect Source. Source was
man,
ridiculous on the mic.
Yeah, man.
I seen Source rhyme dudes under the table.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So from a business standpoint, that's when he started just, if ever you write for somebody and that's what kind of planted the seed. Like I never write for somebody, right? All right. I mean, I'll take the knowledge, but all right, that's more what you do. I do this. I don't really do this. But it started to get a buzz, and then we recorded another joint that started getting play on WEAA, which is Morgan's campus radio station. And at the time, Kill and my homegirl Baby
Chris
Sam
and Baby Sam.
They were So they had the late night Friday night hip hop show, Strictly Hip Hop. So they had the show. I remember the first time they played it, and then jokingly they said, "Yo, we might play this joint every hour." And I stayed up till like 4:00 in the morning, and they played it every hour. So from there, over the maybe next few months, I started to get play on 92Q, which is like the Hot 97 of Baltimore. So I had this one single that was getting college radio play here in New York, and I had this other joint that was getting campus play and 92Q play, late night, 2:00 in the morning play. But, so that was like my first hint at like, yo, this, we might be able to do something. And then I had this indie label back here in New York trying to do this single deal. So that was when I really started to like get a whiff of, how big or, it actually happening.
Right. Like that it was there.
Yeah.
So you've made your bones as a writer. Who's some of the people you've written for?
I say written for and written with.
Right. Okay.
Obviously you mentioned Will.
Right.
So Will Smith, MC Light, Teddy Riley, Rodney Jerkins, Wyclef, Little Kim, Bow Wow, Nick Cannon, Mary J. Blige, Snoop. I might be leaving.
And what's the process like? Because people don't. Right. Because people don't really. Right. Like, explain the process, because the process is obviously different if you're writing for versus writing with. But people. So in our culture, like what Drake went through with the kid quitting, right? And they were saying, "Oh, this kid is writing for Drake." And, you know, it became a whole thing. But people don't really understand the nuance of creativeness and creative expression
and collaboration. Right.
So kind of give us a sense of what that process looks like if you're brought in to write for or to write with somebody.
All right. So it can go a few different ways. So you may get an artist that's super established and has pretty much written everything for themselves up until this point. But right now, they just may not have the time.
Right.
So they may call you in and say, look, this is the vision for the project. I got XYZ going on over here. I'm going to kind of micromanage what you're doing, but here's the bag associated. Here's the vision. Go ahead and rock out. Right. So that might be how a writing for situation might go. A writing with situation, another writing for situation could be, yo, we got this artist that his pops is a big wig and that's why we signed him. Or by way of this relationship over here, or for whatever ancillary reason over here, we signed this person, but we're not 100% sure creatively what direction they could go in. Here's a bag, do 5 joints to set off the direction of their project. That's another way it could go. The collaborative writing with could be, yo, I got half my album done already. Here's the vibe. Here's the direction. I need 3 singles. Let's work on this. Or I got my 3 singles already. I need the meat and potatoes of the project. Let's get together and do that. That's how a writing with situation could go. I'll use Will as an example. So we dropped that single, Live 99, at the top of 2009. And
of 1999.
No, actually, was it? Yeah. So we dropped that single at the top of 99.
Right.
And that started to get crazy play at Morgan. I get approached by my man Marcus. He's like, and I
move Marcus?
Nah. Marcus was super on the low, super quiet. And he's from Philly. And he was like, yo, my cousin Omar is Will's executive producer. Will got a company called Overbrook Entertainment. They got a pop group, R&B group. MC Light is signed over there. They're thinking about bringing Nick Cannon on. They already manage Nick Cannon. Think you might be a good fit. I'm like, all right, well, what you want to do? He was like, yo, if you could come up to Philly in a couple weeks, let's just see what happens. I'm like, all right, cool. Me not knowing, I didn't know this till years later. He didn't tell nobody I was coming.
Right.
I'm thinking, yo, my man Kel is coming up.
Table, right?
No. So, but I love the way it unfolded anyway. So I get up there and this cousin of his is nowhere to be found.
Right.
But we in this studio called Touch of Jazz. And there's this noise in the back of the studio of, I don't know what DJ's back there, but all he's doing is just cutting and scratching.
Right.
But he introduced me to all of the producers that were part of this Touch of Jazz family. They were working on the album of some chick named Jill Scott.
Oh yeah.
They were considering thinking of signing these 2 girls from London named Floetry.
Right.
You know, all of this stuff is like ground level. So I finally get brought in the back and I hear this DJ making all this noise. It's Jeff. So he's like, yo, I heard a lot about you. Da 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 da. We were, you know, Will is working on some things. Let's see how this next couple of weeks goes, and you know, maybe we can make the introduction. I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't expect to meet Will or anything like that, but all right, cool. Maybe about an hour later, the cousin finally comes in. So, I remember overhearing Marcus kind of pleading with the cousin, like, yo, he came all the way up here. Just he ill. You can just listen. Yo, I don't got the time. Da da da. So I'm like, dog, you ain't telling him I was coming? Right. So finally he caved in and was like, yo, what's your name? Kel? Yo, I'm Omar. Come on in, let me see what you got. So they threw on a beat and I just went for like an hour. And after that, was like, yo, what's your number? Right, you good. So that was I'm lying. That was Thanksgiving of 98. We were still in the process of dropping Live 99. That was Thanksgiving of 98. I went back down there Christmas break of 98. And that's when I met Will. When he walked in, he was holding Jaden in his arms. Jaden was like 8 months at the time. And then from Christmas 98 until spring of 99, you know, we kind of just courted. And then I signed my record deal and my publishing deal in spring of 99 with Overbrook. At the time, they were going to go Overbrook Columbia. They ended up doing Overbrook Interscope. And while I was out there spring break, April 99, Will was playing me the album, which was going to be named Willennium. that he was dropping later that year. He had this one joint that he did. He was like, yo, I wrote this record for Jada. It doesn't have a third verse. But, you know, just give me some direction on it. It just so happened a week before that, I wrote a lovey-dovey record. So I'm in the studio fronting like I'm coming up with it on the spot. But I had it ready already.
Like, hold on, let me just hear the beat. Oh, I got it.
I said, I got something. He was like, already? I said, yeah.
I got you. Don't worry about it.
So I went in the booth later. That song never came out.
Right.
But that began the,
right.
Yo, what you doing tomorrow?
There was retention, right. There was retention there.
So from there, I ended up co-writing 7 songs on that Millennium album, including the first single, the Will 2K joint with Casey and JoJo. And then from there, I also had 2 joints on the Wild Wild West soundtrack. And the phone just started ringing from there.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
I got so many questions about this time period. One thing I want to touch on is I've never known you to be a smoker. You never smoked weed.
Nah.
I never really known you to be much of a drinker. I don't think I've ever seen you take more than 1 or 2 drinks.
Yeah.
In the environment, I've been in studios, I've been in industry shit, and it's all about those accoutrements. So how does a Kel Spencer find his way in this industry, bereft of all of the accoutrements, right?
I think a lot of it, it's funny, you go back to your upbringing. I was always the kid that, because of who my pops was, and, you know, I played ball, but I knew all of the Goonies.
Right.
So a combination of what they could see in me potentially through sports and my pops, it was, you could be around this a little something, but go ahead and go live your life. Yeah, like, do your thing. Like, I remember playing in basketball tournaments. And the Goonies are right on the gate, basically scaring the kid from the other team while he's at the foul line.
Right.
So I'm on the block getting ready to jump in and grab the rebound, and they're like, yo, number 12, you better not make that shot. Like, and I'm like, yo, chill, y'all, chill. Nah. He gonna see us afterwards if he make this. So it's like, I think
support.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
but I say all of that to say, being in the things but not of the things was kind of infused early.
Right.
So when you get to these spaces where I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I'm in this environment and a job has to get done and that's what's going on around me, I think, you know, what I call the Karate Kid theory, like you're waxing on, waxing off, but not knowing you're going to need that later. I think that was one of those instances where being in those environments early, right.
The other thing I wanted to touch on was a lot of us, when we in that situation, like on the come up, it's always other people. Like, it's always you and your man. It's always you and your team. You kind of was like, you stepped out of your comfort space a little to go to Philly, right? Like, that wasn't your team, right? That wasn't your man's in them. That says a lot about the moxie that you had as, like, in 99, you like 21, 22 years old, right?
Not even. I think I was 19.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, your ability to go to Philly and to stand on your own 2 feet in that time period says a lot. And a lot of us was able to do that. Like maturity is a thing. And this idea of people maturing at different ages and different stages, that's real. What was it about you that had you able to do that shit?
I think a lot of it, like, the other thing too is I got skipped. I never went to the 8th grade.
I got skipped too.
And my birthday's in November. Yeah. So when school starts in August or September, my birthday. Yeah. So I'm in college at 16.
Facts.
So I think that, you know, well, even before that, you know, I never went to the 8th grade. So when I'm in high school in the 10th grade, I'm really supposed to be a freshman.
Right.
So I'm hanging out with older kids, even around the way. You know, I think just going back to what we said earlier, you learn these things early and then they're transferable down the line. So I think just always being around folks who are older, who are pouring into me too. So it's not just I'm being around you and smoking. Like, no, I'm being around you, but you see something in me. So you're fostering that, you're nurturing that, you're cultivating that. So when I get those opportunities to be out on my own, I'm kind of taking in all that I've learned, and, you know, and still, you know, there's a degree of not knowing too. So even though I may be mature, there's still a degree of immaturity there in not knowing you could get slapped in the face if you step out there.
Right.
Not knowing that makes me feel prepared enough
Right.
to do certain things and just see what's going on.
I felt it a big deal. I never went to 5th grade. So I went from 4th grade to 6th grade. When I was in 6th grade, I felt the age crush. Like these kids were a lot older. Did you feel that?
Well, especially in high school.
9th grade?
Well, it was more on the sports end.
Right.
So the junior high school I went to had a 9th grade. So I never did 9th grade in a high school setting.
Right.
I get to 10th grade.
Right.
Technically, I'm a freshman. It's my first year here.
Right.
But I'm in the 10th grade, and I'm still playing, Pop Warner ball, which has a weight limit. 11th grade is probably really when I felt it. It's like, yo, I'm playing with dudes with no weight limit.
Right.
Everybody flying all over the field.
Right.
I'm a junior in high school.
Right.
That's probably when it really hit me like, yo,
yeah,
this is ill.
Yeah, there's an age crush.
Yeah. And when I went to high school, my man Aubrey and my god sister Chanel, they were seniors when I was in the 10th grade. So when I moved up to the 11th grade, I kind of didn't have their protective covering either. Not that I needed it so much, but it's like it's not there anymore. So it's like I'm really out here.
Right.
Academically, socially, athletically.
Right.
I gotta figure this out. Yeah.
Yo, when you was getting it with Will, when you was writing for them albums, where were you living?
Well, I lived in LA for a year. I basically lived in Philly, but I mean my address was here in New York. Actually, no, I was still in Morgan.
You were still in Morgan.
I was still in Morgan initially before I left and moved to LA. Yeah.
How was that? LA.
If you're working and involved in things, it's cool. I couldn't just live in LA. 2001 through 2002. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I like it to visit and to work. I like if I wasn't involved in anything, just to visit. Yeah, I couldn't. Right. Just the mindset is just different. Right. Like no better, no worse, just different. Yeah.
So here's my question. Now you writing for Will, shit is clicking, phones start ringing. Without giving me a number, what's the biggest bag you ever got for writing?
In one shot?
In one shot deal. One shot in and out.
Biggest bag I ever
like
got
from who? I don't want to hear you can keep the numbers to yourself. But from who? Who gave you the biggest bag?
To be honest with you, the back end was the biggest bag I ever got.
End.
Yeah. Like I've gotten some nice bags up front.
Right.
But yeah, that back end.
That
back end is probably where I got a couple of them joints. Yeah. And on top of the fact that I signed an artist deal and I signed a publishing deal.
Right.
So you got to recoup the publishing deal.
Right.
So there was a nice amount of time. There was a nice window of time where I wasn't getting royalty checks because they go back to recouping the deal. But once that deal is recouped,
right.
When those started coming in, it was like, oh,
right.
Okay, who else?
Right.
Who else needs it? Yeah, nah, back end, like, you get some decent front end bags, some decent 5-figure front end bags, but back end joints, yeah.
How was your life then? Were you happy?
Yeah, I was happy.
You were happy?
I was happy, but I was unknowingly hurt at the same time. And by that, I mean, my moms and pops got a divorce. Right in the middle of all that. Right in the middle of all of that. And it wasn't until years later that I realized how much it affected me. Like, when I talk about this, I give the analogy of like the shootout in the movies where, the bad guy and the good guy is shooting at each other. Bad guy, good guy shoots the bad guy. The crowd goes crazy. And the good guy comes from around the car and he's moving real slow and doesn't realize he got hit.
Shot. Right.
It was one of those instances where my desire for certain things and my edge and my drive, a lot of things started to kind of hit a decline. And, I just figured it's the ebb and the flow, but, that ebb was ebbing.
Right.
And I didn't realize until later, like, yo, this is really affecting me. Because when I first heard it, I didn't, process it. It was more of a, worry I get a divorce? All right, cool. I just got to make extra bread and get both of y'all houses. No big deal. Cool.
Right.
And I never really sat to really just like, damn, they got a divorce. Like, this is the crib.
Right.
Oh man, it's like I got a mentor of mine who says, one day you find out your parents are human.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until like later down the line that I was like, damn, this thing is really messing with me.
Yeah.
But on the onset and on the outside, business was good, projects are flowing, relationships are intact.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I said, over time, that really started to have an effect on me. And I actually started to just withdraw, just from everything.
Mm-hmm. You got a Grammy in your house?
Nah.
You got like a Billboard or like a...
I got some...
I know you got platinum plaques, but
yeah,
I'm saying like...
Plaques,
what's the biggest award from this work that you have in the crib?
We did... the biggest record I co-wrote was Switch for Will.
Okay.
That won an American Music Award.
So you got an AMA in the crib?
Nah, the AMA doesn't do that.
Do that.
Grammy, so here's what happens with Grammy.
Everybody, nigga. I need an AMA in the crib.
So Grammy, what they do is, depending on the category, the artist obviously wins the gold, and then the writers and producers get their certificate and whatever. That's for Grammy. American Music Award doesn't do that. AMA, only the artist gets it. So I got to get my Grammy at some point in time.
2002, you leave LA, you come back home. When did you drop Lindenwood? That was like 09, 2010?
Nah, little after that, 2012, I think.
Tell me about that time period between when you come back home and Lindenwood, because we did in 09. Do you remember the shit we did at Tamara? I got a picture of us there.
That's the spot on Myrtle.
Avenue,
Yeah, next to Soko.
I was doing the hip hop forum. It was something
similar
to this, where we were talking about the culture, and it was you,
Okima.
I
remember that.
Right, we did like this panel. That was like 09. That wasn't Lindenwood time.
Lindenwood was after that. Okay. That was Salon Stories.
Salon Stories, right? Yeah. I remember that. Tell me about that.
Salon Stories. That was fun. So what happened was, there was this thing called MySpace.
Yeah, I remember. Pages was too heavy. I didn't even get MySpace.
And on MySpace, you could post bulletins, which I guess is the equivalent of like a Facebook post, right? But there was an alert where all of your friends automatically got the alert when you put a bulletin up, as opposed to the algorithm where only some people see it.
Right.
So I would do these bulletins every Friday where I would do stories about my encounters in the music industry. 80% of them were factual. Some of them I embellished a little bit just to keep it juicy or whatever.
Right.
And I didn't know at the time, and I wish I could remember this lady's name. I had an intern for Essence Magazine as one of my MySpace friends. So she said, yo, they're working on a piece about black men dating in New York City, and I see the way you write and some of the stories you go through. Is this something you'd be interested in doing? I'm like, all right, cool.
Right.
So I submitted my piece. I didn't even know it came out until I go log into MySpace, and I got 35,000 new friends, predominantly Black and Latino women. Right. And so inbox, yo, your piece was great. And it was about single. I was single at the time. So it was about single Black men dating in New York City, and we had to answer certain questions or whatever.
Right.
So got all of these women in my inbox. Yo, it was funny and this and that and whatever. So now I'm really interacting. Aside from Black Planet, this was my first time really like interacting on social media. Black Planet, I had a page, and I don't think I ever did anything beyond that.
Right, yeah. Black Planet was wild though, but you had to be there, right?
Yeah. So I'm interacting, and what's up with the music? And I Googled you, and you wrote this and this. So I'm like, okay, you could fake cultivate a fan base here. Like, okay. All right, I don't really know. I'm gonna figure this out. And MC Light is like my big sister. So I said, yo, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do an album geared towards this group of people that are paying the most attention to me. And I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but let me just start recording. So I started putting the music together. And around that same time, Steve Harvey was putting out the Think Like a Man book. And speed dating started to become real hot here in New York City. So I'm like, all right, there's all of these factors in here. And what really put it over the top was my man linked me with somebody at iTunes. So they were able to put the Salon Stories album on what's called the new and notables list. And I was hosting speed dating events as a way to curate these experiences.
I remember that.
So that started to really, I got a nice little buzz, and Angela Yee, who wasn't on the Breakfast, well, the Breakfast Club didn't exist at the time yet, but she had a show, which she still has, called Lip Service.
Right.
She was like, yo, I want to bring you up on the show. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go up on the show. I had a hair care company called Perfect Results sponsor the Salon Stories album. So I bought a big bag of hair care products up there for Angela. It was a good time. And what really put it over the top, she was like, yo, as long as I've been doing radio, nobody ever bought me a gift. This is the first time. Kel Spencer, you my best friend forever. So even now, I'll send her a DM. Yo, what up, best friend? What's up, best friend? Cool. Right. But what was ill was Snoop had an interview right after hours. And he ended up sticking, this is on Sirius XM. He stuck his head in the door. He's like, I know I'm early, but can I join your interview? And Kwame was up there at the same time doing the interview too, who produced Switch for Will. And we didn't even know we were going to be there together. Crazy. So there were just so many entry points that were just so, just timely.
Organic.
Yeah.
Right.
And from there, the downloads and sales of Salon Stories was crazy after that. Crazy. So from there, actually a year prior to that, I had also launched my youth program, which at the time was a hip hop writing program. And I did that just on a whim. I went to a career day right after winning the American Music Award. The principal was like, yo, I love the way you resonate with the kids. They know about the rappers, but they don't think about the behind the scenes. Would you ever start a program? And I never thought about it. But for 2 years, it kind of just nagged like, yo, that could be kind of dope. So eventually I started it. So between Pens of Power and then the I guess the buzz of Salon Stories and a lot of principals in New York City being Black women, that's what started to kind of, bring the Pens of Power program here, positive Black man, blah, blah, blah.
I'm going to tell you about Pens of Power. So I've been a DOE vendor since 08. Like around the same time you started being a DOE vendor. But again, this idea of motivation, like I had a creative writing program at Van Sicklen Charter School.
Okay.
Like the old Gersh. Right? But it was a conversation that you and I had that really showed me how to present myself to really get in. Like I was in, but you really, that conversation we had, I don't even remember, at Magnolia Tree. We was at Magnolia Tree, it's like 2018. Right after that, I wrote a curriculum called the Magnolia Initiative, which is basically a hydroponics initiative. And I've been doing that ever since.
Dope.
6 years now.
Dope.
Curating gardens all over. It comes from the conversation that we had.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Like you was working on some shit at my desk. You was working on some shit.
Yeah.
But you was telling me how to present.
Yeah. And it's funny. If it's the same conversation, I had the same conversation this morning.
Wow.
I was telling them principals in New York City are like CEOs.
Right.
They are like they are unlike any other city in the world. And principals, by way of the demands of superintendents and just by the nature of New York City, they go into a school year obviously with education and safety and families being their priorities, but they got a bunch of stuff on their plate. And as a vendor, if you can help them just remove something from their plate, there's a bag for that. Clearly, as a vendor, you want to serve kids and families, but your in needs to be more, look, I know you have these things on your plate.
And that's exactly
I can
what
take
you
these
said.
two. Yep.
That's exactly what you said.
Yep.
But then you also said being a Black man in that space is a premium. Because you in these schools, these kids are bugging out. The one thing that principal wants is another Black man's hands on their students.
Shout out to Sadie Silva. At the time, Sadie Silva was the principal of PS 28 in Ocean Hill. I would do free Pens of Power workshops just so I could get in, get with the kids, and take pictures of the sessions to put them on social media. That was my marketing tool initially. She was a MySpace friend. She had like a piece of art as like her profile picture. I didn't know if it was a guy or anything. Got a message one day. I see you do work with kids. Yeah, I'm trying to launch my Pens of Power program. Whatever. Well, I'm actually a principal. I've seen a couple of your posts. If you don't mind, here's my name, here's my number, meet me at my school tomorrow. Like, all right, cool. So I went in. She set me up as a vendor. I was getting paid whatever I was getting paid, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until years later that she said, yo, when you pitched your program, I was kind of like, I don't know how well this is going to work, but I liked you. You were positive.
Right.
It was a black man in the building that I needed.
Right.
And she said, now I watched you over time, and I watched Pens of Power turn into something crazy. But initially it was like, yo, I'm basically going, I like his heart. I like his presence. Come on, I'm basically going to pay you for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
man.
Yeah, you the one that really, like, I think I may have, you know how you could see something but don't really see it. But after that conversation with you, I began to go into meetings in a different space.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
those,
I'm saying?
man, I remember, you know, you got your blazer on, you got your paper, your
Right.
portfolio printed out.
Right.
I'm gonna go meet with this principal.
Right.
I'm gonna kill this. They gonna love Pens of Power. You get in there in the main office, secretary tells you, yeah, she's expecting you in 5 more minutes. Cool. Going over your lines and your opening in your head. You get in there. This lady is on the phone, like, come on in, sit down. She's going through her phone, you know, her conversation.
Right.
You know, so she's half talking to them and half talking to you.
Right.
What's your name again?
Right.
What's the program?
Right.
Right. What's the program again? Right. The writing program.
Right.
Yeah. It's right. And you did music, right? Who you work with? Yeah. How much it cost? Okay. See my secretary on your way.
Right.
All right, baby. And that's the meeting.
Right. But that's another thing that you told me about. I'm glad you mentioned that because you showed me how to price myself up. Because when you told me the numbers, and again, I don't like talking numbers. We ain't gonna talk numbers. But when you told me your numbers, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, when you're called into these meetings, you're really already hired.
A lot,
You
yeah.
just have to show up.
Right.
They just want eyes on you. They want to make sure that you're gonna show up when you say you do.
Right.
When you say
You're competent.
You're confident. You look good, like,
Absolutely.
And then you're good.
okay.
Absolutely.
They already done did their research.
Because they already know what they're gonna spend.
Exactly.
They already know what they have. Right. And they know what they need.
They spoke to their friends about you. They already did the background check.
Right.
I'm gonna add on top of that. There's something that I call dump offs. So what that means is schools get a certain budget every year, and it has to be exhausted by the end of the year.
So they won't get it next year.
They won't get it. They could actually lose money.
Right.
So around February, March is when they're approaching that cutoff. So you may get a principal that's like, yo, I got $40,000 left. I bought everything I need. I got to get rid of this money. Another thing they're testing you for is, can I trust you to be a person where I'm going to give you this 10 grand for work you ain't even do, but I'm going to credit it towards next year.
Right.
That's another thing that I learned that they're kind of sizing you up for. So, but I mean, just dealing with schools and that whole dynamic, that's a whole other world. Been a blessing.
But
I love it.
You have been so like in the pocket on how to do this, and I've always wondered, like, where did that come from? Because I don't ever feel like that. Like, even when I'm in the pocket, I don't feel in the pocket. I feel like I always have to work for anything that I get. Right? Like, so for example, a good again, this meeting at Magnolia Tree, and I don't mean to stay in this point because I really want to talk about playtime, but this is part of your ingenuity. You showed me, I guess it was like a pitch deck, but I've done sponsorship decks for years, and my shit be very static. I use Canva, it's PDF, it's pictures and shit, and them shits be working. I get it. Yo, you showed me
the video.
Shit you was doing. It was a video, but it was an animation. Yo, Kai, he's showing me the shit, and I'm in awe. It's for Pens of Power. It's an animated deck,
and it's 90 seconds long.
And it tells you everything you need to know in 90 seconds. So,
learning from that meeting, come on in, baby. Learning from too many of those. I'm like, all right. And then what happens is you get into school, and 4 months later, you see the principal again. She's like, you do a program in here, right? And it's like,
you do a program in here, yeah. You
all right. So I'm like, all right. I got to figure out a way to get them the information they need without it being intrusive. The last thing they want to do is download another PDF document.
Press a link and all that. Right.
So I'm like, what works with me? what works with me? And I think I consider myself a tough sell. Like to come to your event or to go on your trip or like I gotta be, come on, like give me something.
Right.
So I'm like, commercials, movies. You know, when Overbrook became just a TV film and management company, and they dropped the label side of things. Will's manager, James Lassiter, JL, I'll never forget the dinner where he sat down and all of that. He was like, look, I'm not the biggest fan of the music industry. I'm a film guy. Whatever you do in the future, if you can incorporate a film, a movie, somehow, some way, do it. As Americans, we're primed to watch movies. You take a girl on a date to the movies. Families go to movies after Thanksgiving. Movies. I'm like, all right. He said, it's part of America. So I'm like, all right. And that has always stuck with me in a multitude of ways. So I'm like, how can I make a movie? A 90-second movie. All right. Then I have to figure out what it's going to look like, and then over the years, I've curated enough and cultivated enough friendships with principals that I'll ask, going into next school year, what are some buzzwords that you want to hear from vendors? What are some things that you know are going to be on your plate? And I'll send that text message out to 15 principals. And then when I get the words back, I'm like, okay, this was said 12 times and 9 times. I got to make sure these words are in the pitch. Right. So you put a 90-second or 2-minute video together. Right. This is who Pens of Power is. This is, or you preface it with a question. Do you have a program that touches on SEL, is Common Core compatible, that engages children and families? No, I don't. Right. Do you have a program? Do you have As that? A matter of fact, we do.
I do. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Here's what we do. Here's the ways we do it. Here's what it costs. Holla. Right. Simple. I get once a month, I'll get a text. Yo, I'm in a meeting with my principal. I'm trying to explain what Pens of Power is. Fam, send her this link.
Right. The video.
20 minutes later, I get a call. Yo, my principal want to get on the Zoom. Right.
We good. Right. We good.
Ain't no PDFs and nah.
And that packaging, I'm telling you, it's like it speaks really well with regards to your ability, like, because everything in life is really about that. You really only have a very short amount of time in relationships. You see a girl you like, you really have a finite amount of time to impress upon her. With work, with interviews. People think interviews are this elongated thing, but it's not. It's really like just like you said, because the person interviewing you already kind of knows what they want. So if you go in there and in 90 seconds to 2 minutes, you give them what they want, the rest of the shit don't matter. So you have been very good at that. Even like you said, the first time you went to Overbrook, when Marcus was begging for you to get
right
in that short period of time. How do you do that? Like, where's that from?
A lot of it is just, it's understanding people.
Right.
It's understanding people. And like I said, I use myself as a rubric. Like, I'm not a guy that's just going to go to anything and do anything and be around anything. So I kind of use myself. What would sell me? What would win me over? But I mean, it's, you know, at the core of entrepreneurship should be servitude. Like, what does this person need? If I could find out what they need and bring it to them and give it to them, find out how they tick, then we're going to create a partnership. And in whatever arena I'm in, it's a combination of observing and literally asking the right questions. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what they want, so you can't fully rely on the questions all the time. So you really have to observe, like, let me watch this arena, let me watch this person, let me ask specific questions, and even in the way you ask the questions, you know.
And the thing you did, that was data mining. You tell 15 principals the same question, they come back with words, and now that's analytics.
Absolutely.
So now you just right. That's a focus group, right? You basically had a focus group on the low.
Absolutely. So, you know, and like I said, you really, you observe the environment, you look at, and I had a huge cheat code with both of my parents being teachers. So, you know, I'd hear them come home and complain about this kid or laugh at this, or so it's kind of, and education was the furthest thing from my mind. It wasn't until that principal one day said, yo, you ever thought about starting a program? And I said, no. Education, no, I'm cool. But when I thought about it, I was like, yo.
Right. I be wanting to quit every week, but I love them though. But I be hating them when I'm there. But then I leave, I be like, yeah, I love them.
But it even plays in. So like, I was Pens of Power for maybe the first 6 years.
Right.
I was the guy going in, doing the workshops with the
Yeah.
kids, then going to the studio. Now I have teaching artists
Right.
that go in and facilitate our
And
curriculum.
that's exactly where I'm at now.
Okay.
With the Magnolia Initiative. This is my last year in the classroom.
Yeah.
Starting next year, I'm going to have teaching artists that take the curriculum and run with it because I just can't be in class anymore.
But even the way we design the curriculum, when I bring on a new teaching artist and they see our lesson plans, they like, I don't have to teach. No.
Right.
Really, all I need is your body in there. Like, we did all of it. It's a plug and play. You can add your own. Like, the YouTube links are already set out for you. The materials you may need are already like I done created relationships with the secretaries and parent coordinator in the office where I could text them, yo, can you print this out for my teaching artists so when they get to the school? It's like, yo, because I understand as a teaching artist, in most cases, as a teaching artist, you're doing this because you're trying to get your artistry to pop. You're probably a struggling artist. And because I understand all of that, as an artist, let me make this easy for you.
That's big. I want to spend the last 15 minutes on playtime. Because I've always thought that playtime was so phenomenal. I used to work with an organization called Things to Do in DC when I was living down in DC in 2013. Things to Do in DC was a meetup group where we had links to the embassy in DC. And these are the people that taught me that all of the embassies in DC have a set amount of dates that they have to give it to the public.
Really?
People didn't know that. Things to Do in DC would go to every embassy and be like, yo, give me a date to promote an event. The door is ours. The bar is ours, because these embassies are not about making money from socialization. They just have to have open dates.
Right.
And so I worked in event management with Things to Do DC, and we would have events at the Turkish embassy, events at the French embassy, events at the Italian embassy, all on DuPont Circle, all the shit, right? It was really ingenious. Like, nobody had, like, up until that point, I had never been in a situation quite like this because it was very focused because everything was embassy driven.
Right.
There's tons of embassies in DC. Once a week for 26 weeks, you could do an event in each embassy. Right. The people who come feel like they are experiencing grandeur because the fact of the matter is, when you go into an embassy, like, you're really in that country. So, like, if you go into the Turkish embassy, you are in Turkey. Right. So that selling point was
that's fire.
Was major. And I did that for a year, right? And I really, I soaked up the game and realized how dope it was for people to have find that link, because that's not something that you just find. You got to actually seek that out.
Right.
But this was 2013, 2014. So now I come home, I'm GM of Milk River, and I'm hearing about this playtime shit. Right? And so off top, I'm coming out of Things to Do in DC mode. So I'm seeing the vision, like, okay, this is a meetup group. Playtime has events at Sugarcane. Playtime has events, you know what I'm saying, where they do X, Y, and Z. And it just makes perfect sense to me. Where'd you come up with it? Tell me about the origin of Playtime. Because I was also the Brooklyn ambassador for like 3 weeks.
I
maybe a month. Like a month, maybe 5 weeks. Right? Because as usual, I'd be doing too much. So I was in it, and I was like, yo, fuck it, I'm going to just support Kel with what I do. But tell us about the origin of Playtime.
So going back to that Salon Stories album with the whole Angela Yee, whatever. So I was doing these speed dating events, and I ended up going on an internet radio station. And that night, the phone was just off the hook. People calling in. We talking about relationship stuff, blah, blah, blah. The host of that show called me up and was like, yo, you got your speed dating thing. We trying to figure out something with, like, board games or whatever. Like, is there any way we could just put heads together? And so we collectively came up with something called Dating Game. So that was the first time we brought a large-scale game. Yeah. So we brought a large-scale game night to New York City. So we were renting the suites and loft spaces at Ripley Greer on 8th Ave in the city of Midtown. And our first game night, we might have had like maybe 100 people there. Then 115, 120. It started to grow. And then we eventually moved over to Bowmore Lanes in Times Square.
Yes, indeed.
When we moved over to Bowmore Lanes, we started to bring out a consistent 250, maybe 300. At the time, one of my partners at the time, who we don't speak anymore, but through the grapevine I'm hearing he's matured a lot since then. So kudos to that if that's true. But at the time, he got us kicked out of Bowmore, basically. And that was also when I was getting the itch to write again.
Right.
And I had this acting itch.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? Going back to the JL thing with the movies.
Right.
Yo, let's do a movie.
Right.
Let's call it Dating Game the Movie. And if it generates enough of a buzz, we'll attract a new venue. Especially since we ain't had a game night in like 7 months. And at the time, Facebook used to have a function, they don't have it anymore, where if you created an invite for an event, you could recycle that same invite again, and it would always be live. So we would recycle the same invite for Dating Game over and over to the point where there was like 5,000 people in an invite.
Right.
I went to go recycle it one time, they disabled that function.
Wow.
So I'm like, how do I keep 5,000 people
engaged?
I'm like, so I went on Facebook group. All right, maybe a Facebook group. All right. So I started a Facebook group called Dating Game. Right. People started to come in. We shot the movie. We sold out 300 seaters at Madiba and Mist in Harlem. And they said that night, bring your game nights here. A week later is when I parted ways with Dating Game. Like I said, my partners at the time, since then, I've heard some great things. And, kudos. But at the time, it just wasn't for me. So I parted ways with Dating Game. We never got a chance to put the movie out. Right. And but at the time I had momentum personally.
What happened to it?
Yeah.
Because like I've seen it. I remember obviously we were friends about it. But I never actually saw the movie.
Yeah. We did that screening.
Right.
And that was it. Because after the screening, the screening was of a rough edit. So we were about to go in and really edit it, color grade it, drop the music in, do the soundtrack. And I said, you know what? I'm cool on it. Bro, I wrote the movie, so I'll take it with me and do something else with it later down the line.
Have you seen Tubi movies?
Yes.
Bro, you need to put that Bro, it would be a smash on Tubi.
So, but I say that to say, I'm sitting here thinking like, all right, I gotta. Everybody's asking me, Kel, I know you're gonna do something new. What are you gonna do something new? I remember pacing around my living room, like, what am I gonna do? It gotta be games, game night. Quana screams from the bedroom, call it playtime. I say, yo, it's my wife. Playtime. But it needs to be beyond just New York City and Playtime International, Playtime Worldwide.
Playtime Worldwide.
And that's where Playtime came from.
Yeah, they're having a good woman in the corner.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So we started coming up with the logo and this and that. And I was able to crawl back to Bowmore. Right. And they basically said, look, if you ain't affiliated with so-and-so no more, you can come on back. I said, all right. Our first game night was that fall. And from 2015 through right before the pandemic hit in 2020, we was on a run. And that last one in 2020, we had our largest turnout of almost 800 people. And we moved from Bowmore to Slate.
Yeah, we used to do it at Brooklyn Wine Yard.
Yep.
It was heavy.
So then it grew to the point where we had the ambassadorships. Right. Where we had a head of every borough doing what we call meetups. Right. So in every borough, there were like smaller curated events of anywhere from 20 to 150 people.
Was the Facebook page. Because around that 16, 17, 18, bro, that page was rocking.
Not always in the best way, but it was rocking.
Right. Not always in the best way, but it was rocking. Dog.
Yeah, so the Facebook group, I basically reinvented that. B. And so we actually just paused the Facebook group about a year ago. Because I'm doing some rebranding now, but about a year ago, and it was about 38,000. Right. Yeah, but the engagement.
Had you ever promoted parties before that?
No.
Right.
Nah.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
Nah. And where it came from was around 2012-ish. Me personally, I started to hear the complaints of, I want to go out, but I don't want to go to the club. Right. I want to go out. I don't want to spend all this on bottle service and wait on these lines. And so it goes back to serving people. If I'm hearing, women, where's all the good men? Right. The person who can answer that question, you got $1 billion. You
got it right. Right.
So,
because they're going to come.
Right. So if I'm hearing complaints, what can we do where people can still go out, get a drink, meet somebody new, get dressed up, but don't have to break the bank? They don't have to break the bank and wait online and do all of the pretentiousness.
Right.
Game nights.
I feel like there was a time when you and I were having a conversation about a space in Park Slope.
A space in Park Slope.
For playtime?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it. I know the space. Can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah. Whatever happened with trying to get like a actual home for it?
That's funny you say that. Oh man, we ain't got a lot of time.
No, we ain't got a lot of time. I wouldn't touch on that. But I remember us having a conversation. I think I may even saw the space.
So
like I think I went and saw the space and hollered at you about it too. Yes. Yeah.
So I was looking. That was one of a few spaces I was looking at.
Right.
That was probably at the top of the list though.
Right.
But that search for a space went on a little after that because I ended up attracting an investor too. But the pandemic, because the last game night we did, the very next one we did, the very next one we were about to do was in one of those spaces that I was kind of closing in on.
Right.
And we were changing the business model. It was no longer 25. It was going to be like a $45, $50 price, but open bar. I was going to go after 1,000 people per game night. Right. And it was going to be 106 in play. We had free coming to host.
I remember that. Yes.
So that was going to be in April of 2020. The pandemic hit in March of 2020.
And threw it out.
So never got to do it. And we've been on pause ever since. But we coming back this summer.
Flo was assistant coach for the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you and your family celebrating that, man. Shout out to that, man. Shout out to Flo. And just your whole family and how y'all was loving it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw, and again, like I just, you could be friends with somebody, but not always have a line to them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I saw, like you were low for a minute, and then I saw that you were recovering.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
I had a car accident last year. Car accident last year, March. Totaled the car. I had 2 rotator cuff tears.
Right.
The funny thing is, I was, I'm always working out. When you're always in the gym, you're always sore.
Right.
So right after the accident, people ask, "Yo, you good?" I'm like, "Yeah." The soreness I felt was just regular soreness from working out.
Right.
But after a couple of weeks, it's like, nah,
unbearable.
Something ain't right here. So I went and got the MRIs done, and I saw the tears. And naturally they talk surgery right away, especially your attorneys. And that's like, hold on, let me see if I could remedy this a bit. So I did a few months of physical therapy. And I get in a groove, and then I feel something's not right. Get in the groove. So it wasn't until like maybe October, November last year that I was like, all right, I think I might have to go get surgery. So I went and got a couple of opinions, and both of my sons.
Unbearable?
Huh?
Was the nights unbearable, laying on that shoulder?
More so after the surgery.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
I'm dealing with rotator cuff issues right now.
Yeah, man.
And bro, sometimes the nighttime is unbearable.
Yeah, man.
I understand.
So both of my sons, their birthdays are in December.
Right.
So I had a surgery date for late November.
Right.
And I was like, I can't be in a sling. So I said, give me something at the top of the year. And the soonest they had was early March.
Right.
So I just had the surgery. Like I
right.
I
you
can
still
get it
don't
this
have
high
full
now,
reign.
but nah. So I just had the surgery this past March.
What did they do?
So they went in, and so they actually did 2 things. They went in and basically they do like a graft where they kind of like reattach artificial, whatever was torn, they kind of reattach
that
it.
tendon, they reattach it.
And then they do something what's called a Mumford procedure, where they shave some of the bone where they could see there could be a potential rubbing or arthritis down the line.
Right.
So they shaved that away.
Right.
So they did both of those while they were in there.
Right.
So yeah, man. So I'm in
therapy
now. It's my throwing shoulder. And I'm thinking about it too, like, yo, this arm been through a lot.
Yeah, right.
Arm been through a lot. So if this accident didn't happen, it might have happened anyway. Right. I don't know. But yeah, man. So I'm blessed, man. I ain't
what was the best part of this process? I don't want to talk about the worst part. I want to say throughout this whole thing, the car accident, the injury, the surgery,
the sitting still, because we busy.
Yeah.
If something don't make you sit down, you ain't gonna sit down. And I really got to think about a lot and plan a lot. I got to think about at home even more, and just love language. What's your love language? So really dissecting my wife's love language, which is quality time, and really looking at what that means and catering to that. Tapping into my inner child. When I was 4, when I was 7, what did I like? What did I enjoy? And really starting to, I guess, juxtapose that a bit in my approach towards my sons. Thinking about culture, like even outside of entertainment, what else can I be for people and to people? I'll save that for the next interview. Because I'm going back to school. I'm going back to school too.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But
you finished at Morgan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is something I still need to do. I hollered at them this year, but I got credits all over the place. I went to like Montgomery College, so I got to get all my credits together, which means I got to pay off some bills because I was going to college for free. But again, you inspired me to do that. I'm gonna finish at Morgan.
Yeah, I dropped out in 2000. And then went back.
Bro, you was there for 5 years and you dropped out?
2000, 99, 2000, yeah. One of the two. I dropped out for the deal.
Right.
Yeah.
I dropped out for the baby.
I dropped out for the deal. Yeah, that was 2000, yeah. Dropped out for the deal, went back in 2013.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
I want to spend the next 5 minutes just on all of your projects, because one of the things I want to connect with you with is the water. Right, you got the water company, and I'm gonna tell you, there was somebody. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There was somebody. I'm gonna say it. There was somebody who had contacted me about carrying their water at all of my events, and I thought that they were with you. And I said, "Yo, that's my brother Kel," and they were like, No, it isn't. And I never returned that. Once they said that, I never hit them back to this day. That shit is in my Facebook DM.
Forever.
Once they said no, because I thought it was you. I thought it was one of your people.
Nah.
And I was like, yeah. You thought it was something else. No. I was like, yo, nah, this my brother Kel shit. I'm with it 100%. And they hit me back, no, it's not. Rest in peace. I want to hear about the water. I want to hear about, you just filmed something with my man. There's a dude that I follow on IG, and me and him been following each other for a long time, and we always comment on each other's shit, and I've never met this nigga in real life. But he's in a movie with you, that movie I just did.
Yeah, The Big Fish.
Yeah, The Big Fish.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about the water. Tell me what you're doing now. What
cool.
are you doing now?
All right, so we'll start with the water. My man Sean, I saw him posting this water, a random water bottle every now and again. I'm like, what's this? He's like, yo, bro, I went in with a partner, and I got a water company. The water is sourced out of Ramona, California, San Diego area. Alkaline water. Matter of fact, I'm gonna send you a case. Let me know what you think. So he sent me a case. I like the water. I said, bro, we gotta go a different way with the branding. Now, another thing that came by way of osmosis, a lot of the projects that I worked on with soundtracks, TV, film, I was able to watch marketing unfold with these things. So I kind of sharpened my marketing eye. I said, yo, we need to go lifestyle. Voss is probably the only water brand that does anything remotely close to lifestyle. The way Diddy markets Ciroc, we need to do water like that. So here, I'm going to get my graphics guys. We're going to switch the logo around. Here's what the bottle should look like. I guess I should have had one with me today, right? Here's what the bottle should look like. We're going to go in that direction. So we actually looking to launch officially this fall. We just lining distribution up and all of that right now. It's called Simply Alkaline. So simplyalkalinewater.com or simplyalkalinewater.co. That's the website. You can go check it out. You can follow it on Instagram as well, at Simply Alkaline Water. And then, of course, with the water, I'm gonna do hella product placement with it. So,
and we're gonna do everything with it.
Yeah, I'll definitely get you. I got y'all taken care of.
Yeah, we definitely have. Yeah, we need that at the block party, July 15th.
Got
you. Can do it, man. You got a tent. You got marketing piece. Yeah, come out to the block party. So then,
that's
Fish,
that.
tell me about the movie.
So I got a little situation with Amazon. We shot the movie last year, and I had every intent to put it out last year, but I wasn't I was just out of it. So we're actually going to drop it this summer, putting the finishing touches on the soundtrack right now. And I'm actually using this soundtrack as like my official return to music, so to speak. The Big Fish is like Belly meets the Scammer Swiper world. So we got a guy who's an entrepreneur who needs to make some money on behalf of his daughter. And we got another guy who's a good friend of him who's in another space. And he's basically like, look, you're trying to get this money for your daughter. You might come over here and just dabble in this space for a little while. It's quick money and And with that, some other things happen and other things come with it. But with scamming being rooted in phishing, PHISH, that's where the term
That's
the
where
big
the big
fish,
fish come
PHI.
from.
Yeah.
How's home life?
Home life is great.
Kai, you remember we had him and his wife here?
Yes.
In 2018.
Yeah.
I
Home life is
moderated.
great.
We were talking about love languages and all that. It was in 18.
18? Wow.
18. Yeah.
Sheesh, time flies.
Yeah, time is flying.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Now, at home is great, man. At home is great. No complaints.
That's good. Where's Flo gonna be this year?
He's with the Vikings.
He's with the Vikings.
Yeah, so when Brian Flores left the Dolphins, he went over to the Steelers.
Yeah.
At the time, Flo was getting married and all of that, so he sat out for the 1 year with the Steelers, and he just moved to Minneapolis in March. Just had a baby a month ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So he's with the Vikings this year.
Yeah, bro, it's one of those things, man, and that's why I always go back. Like, that's why I've been going back to him because, you know, again, when you see people, like, I love my people. I love my community. I love to see people win. I'm not a hater by no stretch of the imagination, right? So when I see my brothers doing great things, it feels like a part of me is doing that as well.
Absolutely, and that's how
you know
it should be.
That's how my pops used to be. Like, my father would spend so much time talking about what the people in his life were doing. Yo, I got a cousin that does this. She's at Johns Hopkins, right? Like, I learned that from him, right? So through you, I met Flo, and then I saw Flo rocking with the Dolphins. It's like, yo, we on.
Right.
When I see you in the stadium, we on. Nigga, we in the stadium. If I should wind up in Miami by some sort of
I'm pulling up.
I'm pulling up. Right? And so, I really believe in my heart that that's how we got to be with one another.
Absolutely.
We really have to be supportive of one another in a very big way, even if there's distance between us, right? So I haven't seen Flo in years, but I'm thankful of his success because his success is our success.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Kyle, what they talking about in the thing? Because we done ran. It's already 8:45. I told you though. I told you that this was gonna be a long one.
Nobody has any questions. It seems like y'all had answers.
Dope. Well, we are. What I will say is, be ready for the return of playtime.
Okay.
There's been some. Where's your microphone? That's what I'm missing.
It's right here.
Because that's not a good thing.
You don't like it? What they've been saying? What they've been saying? Oh.
They're like, she moves around too much.
Tell them relax. Who said that? Tell them holler. Nah, I don't want Dan to holler. Dan's one dude I don't want to holler at me. You know what I'm saying? But I need you on board with. We are working with Wiaka to get a truck for HBCUs. It's happening, right? And I've spoken to some people at Morgan about it.
Okay.
Kai went to Howard. We,
all right.
That, but it's gonna happen.
Now, when you say a truck, what you mean?
So Labor Day.
Oh, got you. Okay,
trucks
it's fire.
That go down the thing.
That's fire.
So last year I was able to secure a float.
Okay.
For the Brooklyn NAACP, and I was on the float. So a float is different than a truck.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. The float is nice, and I'm fine with the float, but I really want a truck. Truck is multi-level. You could fit it out. Right. I want to see Morgan flags, Howard flags, Hampton flags. So I need you on that. And I'm gonna talk about that. And even playtime could be a part of it.
Well, I'm working on a project for the fall called Homecoming.
Right.
So I'm layering things over the next couple of months. Yeah.
Something to attach to it.
And it's for HBCUs. It's not just a Morgan thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But this was great, man. And like I said, I can talk to this brother for hours. Like, there's so much that we didn't get into.
Yeah.
But the one thing I want you to leave them with is this idea, like, people that are not entrepreneurs. I don't want to use the word entrepreneurs. I want to say it like Dame Dash says it, and like people who don't kill what they eat, right? They don't necessarily understand how to be successful at killing what they eat. It's not until like the first time that I got a check off of some shit that I would do for free, it changed my entire life. I knew at that point that I'm not going to be bound by time, trading time for money, right? So I just want you to leave them with this idea, this, something that you can impart on them so they can understand the science of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to kill what you eat?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I'm always going to start with what people need. And there's always going to be a time where your gifts and your skills can meet up with what someone needs. Your gifts are the things that you don't remember learning them. Some people got to take a class to do it. You naturally know how to do it. It's something people always call on you for, and you went, why are you always calling on me for this? But you just naturally know how to do it. That's your gift. You do it for free if you had no bills to pay. And then a skill is something you beat on over and over and over repetitively, and you got good at it over time. If you can sit back and just watch culture and look at what are people asking for, not so much what you think would be a good idea that you're going to bring to people. Look at what people are consistently asking for and crying. People complain about Monday mornings. Whoever has the skill set and the gift to make Monday mornings feel better, you got $1 billion. I said it earlier. Women are asking, oh, where's all the good men? Whoever has the skills and it. So look at what, and it doesn't have to be the world. It could just be a pocket of 1,000 people. You know, if 1,000 people will pay you for your skills and your gifts to feed what they're complaining about, the problem they have that needs fixing, the question they need an answer to, that's your lane.
That's your lane.
And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be something that the world knows about. You could do it nice and quiet.
Right. And I like what you said.
90-second elevator pitch, that
Mm-hmm.
Yo, you gotta see this shit.
I'll show it to y'all.
But what you said that's a jewel is, you don't need to impress the entire world.
Nope.
If you got 1,000 good people that buy into your scheme,
if you got 1,000 people that will spend $8 a month,
right,
on whatever it is you have that you do,
right,
that's a 6-figure income,
right, and we'll leave you right there. Amen. It's your time to come up.
And I can't believe that we're like semi-matching.
Who, me and you?
Look at that.
Yeah. Did y'all miss Kai when Kai was here last week? She wasn't here.
I was like on the other end, and I don't feel like Jason was reading my comments.
I wasn't reading comments, but
I don't think
there's the delay. So.
Oh, there is the delay. The delay is weird.
Jay, you want to come show? You got the Nina and Darius, the Love Jones piece. You know what I'm saying?
What we do, we gotta represent our people.
You know what I mean? So this is episode 19. This was good.
This was great.
I like when I speak to people who I got love for. And I've been doing that a lot on this. I'm not saying it's just you. But what I'm saying is it's always a reminder of the people you have in your gun, right? Because at some point, if you're doing life right, you're gonna have to connect. And it's good to know that I got good connecting pieces, bro. And when I asked you to do this, it wasn't even it was I bet this the day that I can do it. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you. I got love for you. You already know that. We moving forward. We're gonna continue to grow and expand.
Shout out to the new set. I like it.
Shout out,
this is fire.
Is ill. Like, I'm feeling this. Like I really feel like Johnny Carson up here. Yeah, like this is really shout out to Malik. And y'all don't see Malik. I don't think Malik has ever been on camera. I don't think he's ever been on camera. But trust me when I tell you, Malik is a big part of this. Last thing I want to say is, if you have not RSVP'd to the Hip Hop Closet 25th Anniversary Block Party on July 15th, you're playing yourself. We don't have a lot of RSVPs available. It will sell out soon. If you're listening to this, go to the link on Hip Hop Closet's IG page and RSVP to the block party.
And
you can't get in without the RSVP.
Yeah, I'm giving away a sheepskin.
Oh.
Off the RSVP list.
What?
Yeah. Like I'm giving away one coat.
What?
Y'all don't get that memo? Y'all don't read
What?
the captions. Y'all don't be reading the captions.
I got 3 sheepskins. I don't necessarily need another one, but
Wow.
we exempt. Yo, you can get a free sheepskin if you come to this block party.
Yes.
You can't wear it to the block party.
You can't wear it at the block party. It's gonna be 90 degrees.
It's not everybody.
One sheepskin.
You get a sheepskin.
Let's say Oprah. You gotta win. It's one sheepskin. One. But bro, I appreciate you.
Always love, brother.
Thank you. Let me tell you. I want to tell y'all something real quick. This brother drove out from Suffolk County.
Yes, thank you so
You know what I'm saying? Like, he
My
came
bad.
from way out. He came from way out for us. And I appreciate that. Next week, we'll have another one. And on Monday or Tuesday, when we promote it, we're going to tell you again, this is the one, right? Because we are connecting with our friendlies. This is our tribe, right?
This is so amazing.
It is. It's like, really, like, we go to our Rolodex and we pull out the most fire of our friends from our Rolodex to make this happen. We love you. Thank you for the support. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep subscribing. I'll see you next Tuesday. Peace.